The bank went quiet the moment she stepped up to the counter. Not completely silent, but the kind of silence that feels intentional. Like conversations don't stop, they just lower. Eyes don't stare, they glance. Judgments don't speak, they settle. Angela Carter noticed it immediately. She always did. Still, she smiled politely and placed her folder on the polished counter. Inside it were documents, projections, contracts, everything prepared down to the smallest detail. "I'd like to speak to someone about a business loan," she said calmly. The teller barely looked at her. "Do you have an appointment?" "No," Angela replied, still composed, "but I was told walk-ins are fine." The teller sighed softly, like this was already inconvenient. "What kind of loan?" "A commercial expansion loan," Angela said. "For acquisition." That got a reaction, but not the one it should have. The teller finally looked up, and the expression wasn't curiosity. It was doubt. "How much are we talking about?" he asked. Angela met his eyes. 8 million. There it was. That pause. That flicker of disbelief. The quick glance at her clothes, her face, her hands searching for something that made sense, or something that didn't. "Right," he said slowly. "Let me check if someone's available." He stood up and walked away, whispering to another employee before disappearing into the back. Angela remained still, her fingers lightly resting on the folder. She could feel it now. The stares weren't subtle anymore. A woman sitting nearby leaned slightly toward another and whispered. A man in a suit glanced at Angela, then at the telestation, then shook his head almost imperceptibly. Angela had seen this before. Different places, different faces, same look. 5 minutes passed, then 10. No one came. Angela finally leaned forward slightly. "Excuse me," she called gently. The teller returned, slower this time. "Yeah, so our loan officer is a bit busy today." "I can wait," Angela replied. He hesitated. "I don't think that's going to work." Angela's smile faded just slightly. "Why not?" "Well," he scratched his neck, "these types of loans require extensive verification. It's not something we can just handle like this." Angela nodded slowly. "I understand the process. That's why I brought everything." She tapped the folder lightly. He didn't even look at it. "Maybe you should try a smaller branch," he said. "Or schedule something online." There it was again. Polite words, clear message. "You don't belong here." Angela straightened slightly. "I'd prefer to speak to someone now." The teller sighed again, more openly this time. "Ma'am, I'm trying to help you. These loans are for established businesses with significant assets." Angela held his gaze. "I am aware. Do you currently bank with us?" Angela paused, then answered simply, "Yes." He raised an eyebrow. "Really?" Angela didn't respond to that. Instead, she said, "I'd like to speak to a manager." The changed the energy. Not dramatically, but enough. "Fine," he muttered, turning away again. A few minutes later, a man in a tailored suit approached. Confident walk, controlled smile. "Branch manager, good afternoon," he said smoothly. "I'm Daniel. I understand you're interested in a loan." Angela nodded. "Yes." He gestured toward a side desk. "Let's have a seat." They sat across from each other. Daniel folded his hands neatly. "So, tell me about your business." Angela opened her folder and slid a document across. He glanced at it briefly. "Too briefly, and you're looking for 8 million?" he asked. "That's correct." He leaned back slightly. "That's a significant request, I'm aware. And your collateral." Angela calmly slid another document forward. "Assets are listed there." He looked at it, this time, longer, but not impressed, suspicious. "And his valuations," he said slowly, "are quite high. They're current." He nodded, but his expression didn't change. "And your revenue?" Angela provided the numbers. He let out a small breath through his nose. "Ms. Carter, is it?" "Yes. I'm going to be very direct with you." Angela nodded. "Please do. These figures don't align with what we typically see from applicants." Angela tilted her head slightly. Meaning, he said carefully, "either there's been some misunderstanding, or this application isn't realistic." There it was, not even hidden anymore. Angela leaned back in her chair. "Are you saying I'm not qualified?" Daniel gave a practiced smile. "I'm saying we need to be practical." Angela studied him for a long moment. Then she closed the folder. "Not in defeat, in decision." "I see," she said quietly. Daniel relaxed slightly, thinking the conversation was over. "However," Angela continued, "I'd still like to proceed." His smile faded just a bit. "I don't think that's in your best interest." Angela stood up. "I think I'll decide that." The room had gone quiet again, even more than before. Daniel stood as well, his tone tightening. "Ma'am, I'm trying to save you time." Angela looked him straight in the eye. "No," she said softly. You're trying to save yourself the effort. That landed hard. For a second, Daniel didn't respond. Then his professionalism snapped back into place. Without proper verification, we can't move forward. Angela nodded once. Understood. She picked up her folder, turned, and walked out. No argument, no scene, just silence. But the story didn't end there. Because 2 hours later, the bank received a call that changed everything. It didn't come through the front desk. It didn't go through customer service. It went directly to Daniel. He answered casually at first, Daniel speaking. The voice on the other end was calm, corporate, unfamiliar. Good afternoon. This is regarding your branch's ownership structure. Daniel frowned slightly. I'm sorry. We're calling to inform you of a finalized acquisition. His posture straightened. Acquisition of what? A brief pause. Your bank? Silence. Daniel blinked. I think there's been a mistake. There hasn't. Papers shuffled on the other end. The majority stake was purchased this morning. Effective immediately. Daniel's grip on the phone tightened. By who? Another pause. Then Angela caught her. Everything stopped. The air, the sound, the certainty he had just hours ago, gone. That's not possible, he said quietly. It is, the voice replied. You'll receive official documentation shortly. A meeting has also been scheduled for this afternoon. The call ended. Daniel stood there, frozen. His mind replayed the conversation, her voice, her calm, her certainty, and suddenly, every moment felt different. The teller approached cautiously. Everything okay? Daniel didn't answer. He just looked toward the door, where she had walked out, like she didn't need anything from them, because she didn't. An hour later, the entire branch was called into a meeting. No one knew why. Whispers filled the room, speculation, confusion. Then the doors opened, and Angela Carter walked in. But this time, everything was different. She wasn't carrying a folder, she wasn't asking for anything, and she wasn't alone. 2 executives followed behind her. Legal team, authority, reality. The room went silent instantly. Daniel felt his throat go dry. Angela walked to the front, turned, faced everyone. Her presence filled the space without effort. Good afternoon, she said calmly. No one responded. I believe we've already met, she added, her eyes briefly landing on Daniel. He couldn't speak, couldn't move. Angela let the silence sit for a moment. Not to intimidate, but to make sure they felt it. All of it. Then she continued. As of today, I am the majority owner of this institution. A ripple moved through the room. Shock, confusion, realization. I visited this branch earlier, she said. As a customer, her gaze moved slowly across the employees. I was denied the opportunity to even be considered. No one could look at her. Not because of my finances, not because of my documentation, not because of risk. She paused, but because of assumption. Every word landed heavier than the last. Daniel finally lowered his head. Angela took a step forward. This is not just about me, she said, because if it was, this meeting wouldn't be happening. She let that sink in. This is about a pattern. Her voice stayed calm, controlled, but powerful. A pattern of deciding who is worthy before you have the facts. The teller shifted uncomfortably. Others stared at the floor. Angela's eyes softened slightly. Some of you noticed it. Her gaze briefly moved across the room. But you said nothing. That silence now felt louder than anything. Some of you participated. Her eyes moved again. No names, no pointing, but everyone felt it. And some of you, she said, looking directly at Daniel, let it. He closed his eyes. Just for a second. Angela took a breath. This ends today. The room held still. Effective immediately. We are implementing a full operational review, policies, training, accountability. Because a bank is not just a place that holds money, she continued. It's a place that holds trust. She paused. And today, that trust was broken. No one argued. No one defended themselves. Because they couldn't. Angela stepped back slightly. This is your opportunity, she said, to be better than what happened here today. Her voice softened. But understand something clearly. She looked around one last time. Respect is not optional. Then she turned and walked out, leaving behind a room full of people who would never see their jobs or their assumptions the same way again. Because sometimes, the biggest reversal isn't power, it's perspective. And once that changes, everything else follows. But the story didn't settle as quickly as the room went quiet. Because once Angela walked out, reality started catching up to everyone left behind. No one rushed to speak. No one tried to explain anything. It was like the air itself had shifted heavier, harder to breathe in. Daniel remained standing at the front, staring at the door she had just walked through. For the first time in years, he didn't feel in control. He felt exposed. The teller leaned slightly toward him, whispering, "What do we do now?" Daniel didn't answer immediately, because for once, he didn't have a quick, confident response. Instead, he slowly straightened his jacket, trying to hold on to some sense of authority, but even that felt different now. Thinner, fragile. "We follow protocol," he said finally, but his voice didn't carry the same certainty. Across the room, employees exchanged glances. Not the usual workplace looks, but something deeper. Reflection, regret, awareness. Ethan, one of the junior staff, finally spoke, hesitant but honest. She was right. The words hung in the air. No one shut him down. No one argued, because deep down, they all knew it. Daniel closed his eyes briefly, then opened them again, as if forcing himself to face something he had avoided for too long. "This isn't just about today," he admitted quietly. That surprised everyone, including himself. He looked around at his team. "How many times have we done this?" he asked. "Not exactly like this, but close enough." No one answered, because no one could, and that silence said everything. Meanwhile, upstairs, in a private office, Angela stood by the window, looking down at the city below. Calm, still, but thoughtful. One of the executives beside her spoke carefully. "You handled that well." Angela didn't turn. "I didn't do anything special," she said. "You made a point." Angela shook her head slightly. "No, I showed them a mirror." She finally turned, her expression composed but firm. "What they do with that is what matters." The executive nodded. "And Daniel?" Angela paused for a moment, not out of hesitation but consideration. "Watch him," she said. "People don't change because they're embarrassed. They change when they understand." Back downstairs, Daniel dismissed the meeting. But no one moved quickly. Work resumed. But not normally. Every interaction now felt different. More careful, more aware. The teller who had first spoken to Angela found himself replaying the moment over and over again. Her calm voice, her patience, and the way he had dismissed her without even trying. He looked at the next customer in line, and for the first time, he didn't assume anything. Daniel walked back into his office and closed the door. He sat down slowly, staring at his desk. For years, he had believed he was fair, professional, logical, but now, that belief felt incomplete, because fairness without awareness was just another form of blindness. He leaned back in his chair, exhaling deeply, then reached for his phone, not to defend himself, not to explain, but to start fixing something. Because for the first time, he realized the real problem wasn't what happened today. It was how easily it could have happened again. And somewhere upstairs, Angela Carter stood quietly, knowing one simple truth. Power can force change, but awareness, that's what makes it last. And this time, she wasn't just changing a bank, she was changing the way it sees people.